This is part 6 of Watchtower Hypnosis caught on video. Last time I discussed how they put subliminal messaging in the Caleb and Sophia videos for children. And this time we're going to discuss how they put subliminal messages in their movies for adults. So during this episode and the next episode, I'm going to break down what many witnesses call the basement video. And for those who are not familiar with the basement video, this was released during the 2016 convention of Jehovah's Witnesses. And it was a two-part series of these group of people you see on the screen. And it basically shows them right before the supposed Great Tribulation or Armageddon, same thing in Jehovah's Witness world, or close enough. But it shows them in all different scenarios on how supposedly being loyal to Jehovah got them to this point where they're now hiding in a basement before God kills everybody. So there's a lot of subliminal messages and hypnotic brainwashing in this two-part series of what I call the basement video. So I'm going to first, during this video, I'm going to just cover the first half. And to find this, you can go on their website. And part 1 is titled Avoid What Erodes Loyalty. And this is from their 2016 convention. So let's just watch each one of these stories and see how they put so much subliminal programming into this. And it's also Jim Jones training as well. So let's just play the first part and break this down.
What an experience. That's why loyalty to Jehovah has been so important.
That is so true, Brother Brown. How about you? Has your loyalty ever been tested?
Oh yeah, I remember. It was years ago, and an elder came to give me counsel after a talk. And let's just say I was not expecting.
You were really quiet the whole way home. Is everything all right?
Yeah, I'm fine.
What is on your mind?
I can't believe the nerve that Ben has.
Ben?
Yeah, Ben. He gave me counsel about that talk that I gave last week.
Really? What did he say?
I don't know, something like, I didn't use enough scriptures, whatever. I mean, it was hard to listen. You know, I've been an elder longer than he has, and he comes up to me and gives me counsel.
Now, just to clarify these terms for those who in my audience have never been Jehovah's Witnesses. So even though he's an elder himself, when he's saying that another elder gave him counsel on his talk, that would be the elder that has the title of auxiliary counselor. And in fact, there's some people who were Jehovah's Witnesses that may not know those terms either, because not everybody is familiar with those terms unless you served as a ministerial servant or elder usually. So the auxiliary counselor is someone that will counsel other elders on if they do something wrong during a talk, such as go off script or be too original. In fact, I used to get counseled all the time from the auxiliary counselor because you could probably tell those who've been watching my channel that I tend to go off script, so to say. So I've had a lot of run-ins when I used to give public talks with the auxiliary counselor. So even though that he himself is an elder, the auxiliary counselor is above him as far as giving talks. So just to clarify, because that's significant to understand that even though he's an elder himself, he's still under subject to be counseled by the auxiliary counselor.
About my teaching?
Please tell me you didn't argue with him.
No, of course not. But it wasn't easy. I thanked him and said something like, I'll give it careful thought and I'll apply what he said.
So you did the right thing.
Yes, but did I really? I took the counsel, but I don't like my attitude.
So the first bit of programming is not only are Jehovah's Witnesses expected to be obedient to counsel, even if you don't agree with it, even if you don't understand it, you're meant to just obey what you're told. They're even putting them in a position where they're saying, you better have the right attitude as well, right? So it's not just, even if you accept the counsel, they're saying you better have a good attitude about it as well. That's the programming with this particular part.
Let pride get in the way of another elder giving me counsel just because I've been an elder longer.
So what are you going to do about it?
Pray. I mean, that's what I should do. And then go to Ben and ask him to explain what I didn't give him a chance to explain.
Wow, Brother Brown. I can't picture you reacting that way to counsel, let alone getting counsel.
That was the problem. Neither could I. If I was going to remain loyal to Jehovah, I needed an attitude adjustment.
So this is where the brainwashing starts. So he says if he's going to remain loyal to Jehovah, he needed an attitude adjustment. So not only are they sending the message that if an elder counsels you, you need to listen. Doesn't matter whether you agree with it, whether you understand it or think that is right or you think that is wrong. Even your attitude better be correct. So what he's basically saying, and the message is that if you want to be loyal to the creator of the universe, that if an elder in a Jehovah's Witness religion tells you to do something, not only do you need to better do it, but you also have to have the right attitude with it. If you don't have the right attitude, you're being disloyal to God. Now, isn't that insane when you really think about it? But we're going to break this down even further.
So what did you do?
I prayed. And I asked if I could really conduct myself as a lesser one. I went back to Ben and asked him to give me the counsel that he had prepared for me. I volunteered for assignments I hadn't done for a while. You know, things that we do that go unnoticed. And little by little, my attitude improved.
So his attitude improves with free labor. You see how they connect all the dots to just control Jehovah's Witnesses? So if an elder gives you counsel, one, you better listen. It doesn't matter if you believe it, agree with it, or understand it, or even if it's flat out wrong. Such as when elders during the Royal Australia Commission, when that whole thing happened, elders were told not to report sexual child abuse, right? So even if you think that you're being told something wrong, if you want to be loyal to Jehovah, one, you better do what the elders tell you. And two, you also need to have the right attitude, right? So not only do you have to listen, you have to have the right attitude. And then to help you with your attitude, free labor, which is what they're showing. So somehow doing free labor is going to help him with his attitude on receiving counsel that maybe he didn't understand or agree with it.
After that, I felt closer to Jehovah. Seeing the need for more humility, well, was humbling.
I never realized, but it seems like everyone's had lessons to learn along the way.
Believe me, I am still learning. If I hadn't changed back then with Jehovah's help, oh, things would be so different today.
So notice he said, if he didn't get help from Jehovah, right, with Jehovah's help, things would be so different today. So basically, Jehovah helped him take counsel that he didn't perhaps agree with, understand, and by doing free labor, that was God, the creator of the universe, helping him do something he didn't maybe understand. Now, this is from the February 2017 study edition of the Watchtower. And I forgot when I was putting together this slideshow to get the cover of that. But I want to explain this because there's there's more hidden meaning to what you just watched. So basically, the elder didn't basically agree with the council, understand the council, but the message was if he wanted to be loyal to God, he had to accept the council and have the right attitude. If he doesn't have the right attitude, do free labor to have the right attitude. But this is how this religion controls people. You see, in this Watchtower article, if you see what I have highlighted, where it says on page 26 on the left side, under the paragraph, who really is the faithful and discreet slave, and that's the governing body for those who don't understand those terms, it says the governing body is neither inspired or infallible. So remember that because this is a mind trap and it's connected to the video we just watched. So they're claiming that the governing body is neither inspired or infallible. However, notice this other Watchtower magazine. So this is the April 15th, 2013 study edition of the Watchtower. And if you notice that picture on the right-hand side, and I'm going to blow it up to show you that indeed they do claim to be inspired. So if you look at this picture, it shows, you could say, the hierarchy of Jehovah's Witnesses. And basically, number one, if you see where I have my mouse at, number one, it's showing the governing body in first place. So where's the governing body getting their information from and their direction from? If you look above the governing body, what you see is inspiration. Now I'm going to zoom in on just that one part, and you can see that they're clearly showing that they are inspired. Whether they're inspired directly by Jehovah or inspired by Jesus Christ and the angels, they're showing you that they are inspired. Right? So while showing you that they are indeed inspired and treating themselves and expect that you treat them as they are inspired, they then turn around and gaslight the members and say the governing body is neither inspired or infallible. So why the double standard? How is it they're saying they're not inspired, but then they're showing an image that clearly shows they're inspired? And what does this have to do with what we just watched? Well, this is why I'm bringing this up. You see, part of the Jehovah's Witness brainwashing is it's a mind trap. A mind trap. They have their minds trapped. So basically, they claim that they are inspired. And as you can see in that picture, it shows that they're inspired. And this is why somebody like myself is called an apostate, the unforgivable sin, because I question the teachings of the governing body. Now, why would someone be cut off from their friends and family and network and have everybody turn against them from questioning these men unless they're inspired? You see, that's the whole point. If you question the governing body, you will be called an apostate and thrown out and cut off. You can't question anything these men say because they claim to be inspired clearly. This is why you can't question them. But then you see when you start to question certain things where they get caught lying about things, things such as the United Nations connections or how they handled sexual child abuse, then what they say is, oh no, the governing body, we never said we're inspired. Like, where did you get that idea from? So you see how it's a mind trap? And the lesson in this particular part of the video was that you need to, if you listen to counsel from the elders and commands from the elders, then you're loyal to Jehovah. That's what he said. So if you want to be loyal to Jehovah, you better do whatever the elders and the governing body say, period. Right? So that would include they're inspired, right? But then when you start to question the things that they do, then they turn around and say you're not inspired. So it's a mind trap. And this is what keep the witnesses in this loop of brainwashing. And this is partly why I woke up too, because once I realized this mind trap, when I started to question things, and then they turn around and say, "Oh no, no, they're not inspired." What do you mean they're not inspired yet? I'm going to be kicked out and called an apostate just because I'm questioning these things. Now, again, wasn't kicked out. I voluntarily left, but basically anybody that doesn't voluntarily leave, you're going to be kicked out if you question these things. So it's a mind trap. But as you can see, the lesson that they just taught was that basically, if you want to remain loyal to God, then if the elders give you counsel, you better listen to it and you better have the right attitude. If you don't have the right attitude, then do free labor and then you're loyal to Jehovah. So now let's go on to the next little short story in this video. Now we're going to go to the single brother.
I think I'm gonna get some more water.
I guess I'm not the only one whose loyalty was tested. But for me, it was a little more subtle. My phone was a door to just about everything. But that door opened to some places I shouldn't have gone. At first, I thought, it's not pornography, so it's okay. But still, what I was seeing filled my mind with immoral thoughts.
Now notice he said it's not pornography. So you have to read in between the lines to see what they're getting at. So what's the next thing closest to pornography? See, there's a lot of images that can arouse a man that may not necessarily be pornography, right? And that's what he's getting at. So he already knows enough, like, oh, he better not be watching pornography as a Jehovah's Witness, right? But whatever he's looking at is probably something just sexual, probably.
And I couldn't stop.
Galatians 6, 7, and 8 reads, "Do not be misled. God is not one to be mocked. For whatever a person is sowing, this he will also reap."
Reap what you sow. Reap what you sow. I was sowing unclean desires and reaping a double heart, desensitized to things Jehovah hates. Turn my eyes away from looking at what is worthless. It wasn't just whether an image is considered pornography. Anything that stirs up unclean thoughts is worthless. And
So notice he says it wasn't pornography, but anything that stirs up unclean thoughts. Now, what that translates to for those who were never Jehovah's Witnesses, that basically anything sexual outside of your marriage mate is considered unclean desires. Anything, right? Unless you're courting somebody, which they don't use the word date, they use court for whatever reason. But anything outside of a marriage that has anything to do with any sort of sexual feelings to Jehovah's Witnesses, it's unclean and Jehovah hates it, right? You only have one option if you're a Jehovah's Witness, is to marry another Jehovah's Witness. That's it. And any thoughts outside of being married to a Jehovah's Witness is unclean.
should turn my eyes away. But I had to do more.
And just as a side point, I did a video recently about tarot cards, and I was saying how they always use generic stuff. As you notice, this is not Facebook or YouTube. It's generic. Witnesses always use generic stuff, except for tarot cards. Whenever they want to display tarot cards, they use the real actual tarot cards. So I just wanted to show this as an example for those who watched that other video that you see they always use generic stuff. But why is it when it comes to tarot cards, they use specific tarot cards and they always want to throw the Tower card in there?
Those weren't just the psalmist's words. They had to be my words. Words I've had to act on ever since to stay loyal to Jehovah. Thanks, Karen.
So notice he said, even if an image is not pornography, right, it's unclean. Now, men have more testosterone. Well, I'm sorry, not that women have testosterone, but women have, or I mean, men have more of a sexual energy. That's what I meant, right? They have more sexual energy than women, more of a sex drive than women. So it's normal for a grown man, especially who's not married, to look at women. So when Jehovah's Witnesses say, okay, pornography is bad, that's understandable. Most Christian religions agree that pornography is bad. But something such as something like this Sports Illustrated swimsuit edition, you see to Jehovah's Witnesses, this is also unclean. So this was what he was looking at. Something like this. I mean, you have to use your imagination, but whatever it was he was looking at was not straight pornography. But the whole lesson was that, well, even looking at this is going to stir up what they would say unclean desires. But this is normal, though. It is healthy, even for teenage boys to be looking at stuff like this when they're in high school and they start dating in high school, right? Like this is normal development. I would go as far as to say it's healthy, right? Maybe high school is the proper age that they should even look at this, but this is normal. But you see in the video, he was a grown man. He's not even in high school anymore. And the Watchtowers got him thinking that even something that's not even pornography, anything that's going to arouse the thought of wanting to have sex with a woman, oh no, that's bad. That's satanic, right? Unclean. Jehovah hates it. And as I said before, there's only basically one choice when you're a Jehovah's Witness, and it's either to marry a Jehovah's Witness, and if not, anything is unclean. But when you try to suppress the sexual energy, it goes somewhere, and that's something that some people don't understand that. So when you tell a grown man that he can't even look at this, then where's that sexual energy going to go? Now, a real story. So I remember one time I was out in service and there was this young woman who was, you could call a spiritual giant, right? She was a pioneer, been in an organization her whole life. Her father was an elder. Her uncle was like a branch committee person. I mean, her and her family were known as like spiritual pillars in the congregation. And one day we were out in service and somehow the subject came up of visiting Bethel. And this woman who was considered a spiritual giant, she was saying how at Bethel, there's so many homosexuals at Bethel. And I was shocked because I'm thinking, what do you mean there's homosexuals at Bethel, right? Doesn't God hate that? And then the elder jumped in the conversation. He was talking about it too. So what they were saying is that there's a lot of single, what they call Bethelites, who live at Bethel, headquarters of Jehovah's Witnesses, that have been kicked out for being homosexual. So I don't know if they were caught in an act or caught looking at something, and the elder jumped in the conversation. So I remember at the time I was like, well, what do you mean? I thought Bethel was God's house. And I don't have a problem with any homosexuals. In fact, I honestly think that religion has their own motive of saying, oh, God hates you, you're going to die. Like, I don't trust any religion. I think that you should do whatever you want to do as long as you don't hurt anybody else or impose your will on anybody else. So I don't have a problem with that. But the thing is, Watchtower says that that's evil, right? And God's going to destroy them. So why were they saying there are so many homosexuals at Bethel? Well, I'd like to call it the prison complex. You see, when you take a person who's committed a crime and put them in prison, especially people who are serving life in prison, it is a known fact that sometimes homosexual stuff happens in prison. And the reason is because you take something normal, such as sexual desire with opposite sex, and you suppress that. So when you throw a bunch of men in prison and tell them you're never ever going to even touch a woman ever again, and especially those serving life, sometimes those things happen because that sexual energy is suppressed and it needs to go somewhere. And it's a known fact that there could be people that are completely straight and they go to prison and things happen. So this is what essentially I figured out with Bethel. You see, when this spiritual giant, this elder, when they were talking about how, oh, Bethel has so many homosexuals that got kicked out, I now understand it because, like we just seen in that video, when you tell a grown man that you can't, like, it's one thing that you can't look at porn, but even stuff like this, even Sports Illustrated swimsuit edition is unclean. It's going to bring up unclean desires. Jehovah hates it. You tell a grown man he basically can't even look at it, can't even think about a woman unless he's just going to marry a Jehovah's Witness. Well, then you throw all those single guys in Bethel that are all distorted that think that it's wrong to look at women. The same thing that happens at prison, apparently something similar happens at Bethel, right? That's the only explanation I can think of on while this elder and this other pioneer sister is saying how, yeah, there's a lot of homosexuals at Bethel and some got kicked out over it. But that's the problem with this organization. And it's not just the whole man thing. I remember this story that I heard, and it took me 3 times of hearing the story to realize that it wasn't the same story. It was 3 incidences, 3 different separate things that had happened. But the story is that, and I've heard it more than once, where a married woman would be pioneer partners with a single woman. So the married woman and this other woman, they would be pioneering together, so they're spending all this time together, and then you hear that the woman leaves her husband and runs off with this woman, and then they're lesbians. And I've heard this same thing 3 times, and the last time that I heard it, I realized that it wasn't even the same situation. I mean, it wasn't the same people. It happened more than once. It's a known thing that you have a woman married to a man, and then she's working with a woman. All like so, Jehovah's Witnesses have a lot of sexual problems because the natural energy is being suppressed. And in this case, as you see with that I don't know how old he is. I would say probably like maybe 30. The lesson is, oh no, even like you can't watch pornography, but even stuff like this, not it's all bad, it's all unclean. Well, all that sexual energy is going to go somewhere. And that's why you got problems at Bethel. And as you can see in this video, he's alone, right? He's not with a woman. But when I was every time that I put together one of these videos, I always see something that I'm not looking for, like something just like I always notice something. So notice carefully after he tells his story about him suppressing his normal sexual desires, right? Because even if it's not pornography, he shouldn't be looking. Just notice something that I'm going to point out after he tells his story, directly after he tells his story.
The psalmist's words. They had to be my words. Words I've had to act on ever since to stay loyal to Jehovah.
So Why is that other guy sitting like that? That's just what I want to know. Who bends that far over? I mean, that's not just leaning forward. I mean, is there a reason that he's bent that far over right after this guy tells his story about, him suppressing his normal sexual desires? And if you look at that same guy before this other guy tells his story, you'll notice that he's sitting normal, right? So there he's sitting normal. He knows how to sit down. And here's another picture of the same guy after sitting normal, right? So during this whole video, he sits normal, except right after this guy tells his story. So I'm just asking a question, right? Nobody can say that, oh, I have a sick imagination. I'm just asking, why is it that right after this guy tells his story, for some reason, this other guy is bent down as far over as he possibly can for no apparent reason? I'm just wondering, right? Like, is there something subliminal going on? Right? Are they trying to send some message after this guy tells his story? But I don't know. I think it's a fair question to ask is why is he sitting in that position only after this guy tells his story for about 3 seconds, and then during the rest of the whole movie, he knows how to sit, right? I don't know. Let me know if you can come up with a reason why he's sitting like that. So let's move on. So now we're gonna go through the wife's story.
We've been talking about times when our loyalty has been put to the test. And not to put you on the spot, but didn't you have an experience?
Mm-hmm. I did. And I don't mind sharing. It was when I was at that office job in the city. It was just coffee as usual.
Karen, we're making some coffee. Did you want some?
Oh, I love it. The good stuff, right?
Oh, yes.
Thanks. Boy, I can smell it.
And somebody brought treats.
It's wonderful, thank you.
Yeah. So how are things going?
But this time she started telling me about her problems at home.
So John, he got a text message from his ex-girlfriend.
No, that must be very hard for you.
Yeah, it is.
There are some things in the Bible that have helped me in my marriage that I would love to show you. I was excited about the chance to give a witness. Hey, good morning.
Hey, good morning.
Is that for me?
I know how you like it.
Ooh, thank you. From time to time, we talked, kept the conversations brief. And that was it.
Hey!
But over time, the conversations grew. And husbands and family were often the hot topic.
So notice that right away the wife was like, oh, I was excited to give a good witness, basically try to brainwash these people. So notice how socially awkward she is sitting there, almost like a robot. You're going to see that, and you're going to see the bigger picture after, but basically witnesses are trained to kind of be like robots, that basically their only interaction with other people should be to try to convert them. That's it, right? If they can't convert you, they want nothing to do with you. Now, not all of them follow that, but that is what the organization wants. That's what the leaders expect. They want them to feel that unless you're going to try to convert them, you shouldn't have anything to do with them. So you're going to see by her body language and her facial expressions, watch how out of place she is when she tries to preach to them, because again, for a witness, she shouldn't have anything to do with these people unless she's going to convert them. And if she can't convert them, they look at people like scum who they can't convert. And I'm going to show that even later in more detail, but just notice how robotic she is, as her only motive of even sitting down with these people is only to try to convert them.
And everyone had a viewpoint.
If I may, there's some things in the scriptures that I think
I still thought I could give a witness and actually teach them something about Jehovah.
Honey, it doesn't work like that.
All right. Sorry, Karen. Too much information, right? You know, with a husband.
But in reality, I was the one being taught. And I was a quick learner. I was sure their thinking wasn't rubbing off on me. Until one day when Robert called. The girls knew that Robert and I had had a small disagreement that morning. And he was calling to apologize. Although some of it was my fault.
Karen, did you want to get a little coffee?
No, it's him. If you don't want to talk to him now, then don't. Besides, it sounds like he could use a little silent treatment.
I couldn't believe the effect the association was having on my attitude and my marriage.
But what could you do? You worked with them every day, and you were able to give a witness sometimes.
But I had let it turn into regular, unnecessary association that was spoiling my useful habits.
So for those of my audience who've never been Jehovah's Witnesses, this is proof that Jehovah's Witnesses are phony. They're fake. And when I was a Jehovah's Witness, I was fake and phony too, because that is the training. As you can see, what she just said, unnecessarily association with bad association. This is how Jehovah's Witnesses really feel about you who are not Jehovah's Witnesses. They look at you like you got the cooties, right? You're going to rub off on them. You're going to infect them. You're diseased. You're dirty, right? This is how they really feel about you. And as you can see, the lesson was that the only reason she should even pretend to want to talk to her coworkers is if she's going to try to convert them, right? And that's the lesson. That's the lesson that's being given. That's called being fake, right? You see, when Jehovah's Witnesses knock on your door, they don't have that attitude. In fact, some of them hope that you invite them into their home. But you see, this is what's really going on in the mind of a Jehovah's Witness. They're not really nice people. They're fake. And they're so arrogant that they put this video out there to basically tell Jehovah's Witnesses, your coworkers are scum if they're not Jehovah's Witnesses, unless you're going to convert them. Even talking to them is bad association. Even talking to them is going to cause problems in the marriage, right? Because they have no morals. They're just disgusting people. This is literally how witnesses are being trained, right? They're fake.
And that had to change. I started keeping things friendly, but professional. I was more cautious, as I would be if they had invited me out, or if a male coworker had invited me to join him for a break.
So did that work?
It did, and I was so relieved.
And so was I.
Jehovah gave us the good morals and habits that we have. Exposing myself to bad association was being disloyal to him.
So the lesson basically is that Jehovah's Witnesses, and this is what they just taught, that their followers, that if a Jehovah's Witness has anything to do with you, if you're a non-witness and they work with you, that's being disloyal to God. I mean, you see how insane and brainwashed these people really are? That literally. So you notice at the end of the video, she wasn't even going to have coffee with her coworkers anymore. That's normal, right? You don't have to have the same religious beliefs to have coffee with your coworkers, but that's how extreme these people are. The lesson literally was you shouldn't even have a coffee break with your coworkers. And if you are speaking with them and associating with your coworkers, you're being disloyal to God. That's what she said at the end of her part of the video, right? That, oh, the association would be disloyal to Jehovah. That's how crazy they are. But I want to now show you how fake they are, just as she demonstrated in that video. So when I was trying to find all the art, I couldn't find the ones I was looking for, but these are a couple of ones that I found just to show you how fake they are, that the whole organization is fake. And the thing is, they're so brainwashed that they don't even know they're being fake. They really don't know they're being fake. I'll give them benefit of the doubt with that. Most of them do not realize that they're being fake, but Jehovah's Witnesses are trained to be phonies. They're fake. So in a September 2016 meeting workbook where they tell them what to do, if you go to page 7 in that meeting workbook, just notice what I have highlighted at the bottom. Sit next to him at the meeting, right? So it's basically saying, like, if you get people to show up at the Kingdom Hall. But notice just what I highlighted. Sit next to him at the meeting. They telling them how to be fake. So you see, if you go to a Kingdom Hall and a witness says, "Oh, may I sit there? Is anybody sitting there with you?" And they sit next to you, you will end up thinking, "Oh, wow, these people are friendly. Look, they sat next to me. I feel comfortable." But what you don't know is that they're told to do that. They're told to sit next to you. They're told to show personal interest, say hello, right? Like, they have to be told these things. It's called being fake. But do you see, like, in a work environment, the whole idea is, well, just be professional, right? Don't have anything to really do with these people. They're not one of us, right? But then you go to the Kingdom Hall, they're being told, "Oh, sit next to him." That's called being fake. If somebody sit next to you because they were commanded to, their curriculum told them sit next to this person when they show up at the hall, that's called being fake, right? Because if they really want to sit next to you, you don't have to tell them to sit next to you, right? If it was more natural, witnesses would just sit next to new people at the Kingdom Hall. But the fact they have to be told, it's a program. And here's just one more. That's not the best example of this, but let me show you another example of it. So this is the meeting workbook for January and February of 2024. So this one's a little bit newer. And if you go to page 13, notice in the middle where I have highlighted, be friendly and show personal interest to the people you meet. Try to learn something about that person that can help you to know what Bible truths might appeal to him. Now, notice how fake that is. First of all, be friendly, right? A lot of people will say, "Oh, Jehovah's Witnesses are so friendly." And for those of you who have never been Jehovah's Witnesses, that's probably your take. "Oh, well, I don't really know much about their religion, right? But they're so friendly." But did you know they're being told that it's a program? It's a command. They have to tell their father, and this is constant. This isn't just a one-time thing. They always repeat these things over and over. Witnesses are so friendly because they're told to be friendly. It's fake. And further proof that it's fake, and a lot of XJWs will tell you this because regular Jehovah's Witnesses won't actually admit this, the ones that are still in. But the Kingdom Hall has some of the worst gossipers ever, right? I mean, I have not been a Jehovah's Witness my whole life, and I can honestly say that the worst gossipers and backstabbers that I've ever associated with were from the Kingdom Hall, right? So a lot of people don't even like people in their own congregation, right? And anyone watching this knows that, right? If any Jehovah's Witness makes a comment on my page and tries to deny that, they're flat out lying because everybody knows this. In fact, they even had parts on how to get along. A lot of Jehovah's Witnesses, they don't even really like each other. But then when people are from the outside, "Oh, Jehovah's Witnesses, they're so nice, they're so friendly." They're told to. It's in the curriculum. It says, be friendly. But then it says, show personal interest. Well, by default, you can't show personal interest when you're told to do it. Real personal interest is automatic, right? That's automatic. When you have to tell somebody, "Oh, go over to that person and show them personal interest," it's called being fake. And I remember one of these meeting workbooks, and I couldn't find it because there's so much. It's hard to sometimes find particular things. Like they have so many of these articles, but there was one I remember where it was even saying how when witnesses are out in the ministry, it was saying like when you go to a person's house, look around and try to find something to compliment. It actually said this. It would say like, if they have a garden, tell them that they have a nice garden, right? Like if they have a pet, ask them the pet's name. It literally was saying this. So when we were trained to go door to door preaching, we were trained look around while we're waiting for the person to open or look around and try to find something to show that personal interest. It's called being fake. It's all fake. It's staged. If you have to tell somebody to show personal interest, if you have to tell them, oh, they have a garden, tell the person you have a nice garden. Oh, they come to the Kingdom Hall, sit next to them. It's fake. And then it says, try to learn something about the person that could help you to know what Bible truths might appeal to them. Well, why not just ask them flat out if they believe in the Bible and what they think of the Bible, right? That's called being real. But you see how fake and phony these people are? It says, try to learn something about the person to help you find out. Like, why not just flat out ask because they're fake? That's why they're fake. They can't flat out ask because it's all staged. It's fake. So it's basically saying, what it's basically saying, if you read past the brainwashing, is basically saying, pretend to show interest and learn about them while you're faking the interest, and just try to figure out how we can brainwash them, right? Which one of our publications can help brainwash this person after we pretend it to show interest in the person. That's what it's basically saying. It's called being fake. So as you can see, though, in the video, the only dealing that it was appropriate for her to have with her coworkers was that one part where she looks socially awkward and she's basically trying to pull out the Bible. And at the end of the video, she won't even have coffee with her coworkers, right? Because her coworkers are bad association and they're rubbing off on her. And it's disloyal for her to actually have any dealings with her coworkers besides professional, right? So I just want to put this out there. It's for those who have never been Jehovah's Witnesses and you say, oh, those people are so nice. That's how they really feel about you. They feel so much above you that they think even just simply having a coffee break with you, that it's dangerous to them because you're such a bad influence, right? If you're not one of them, you're such scum. You're gonna rush. They shouldn't even sit next to you, except for at the Kingdom Hall. Then you're told, oh, sit when they walk in the Kingdom Hall, sit next to them, show personal interest, right? Try to learn about them. It's fake. It's fake, and this video, it reveals how they really feel about you, which they don't like you. So then the next part of this video, this is where the Jim Jones training starts a little bit, but you're going to see how they try to instill fear in them. Right now, keep in mind, this is 2016, and in 2016, they were still making them feel like, oh, the end is right around the corner, right? Armageddon's coming, right? You don't want to lose your life. You better become a Jehovah's Witness quick, right? The end's about to come. So notice in 2016, the fear that they try to instill
was being disloyal to him. When I think how far we are now into the
So you see how scared they got, right? Who's at the door? Now, the reason I call this the basement video is because they're hiding in a basement, right? So the scenario is that, Armageddon's about to start, right? And the government's turned on Jehovah's Witnesses and they're hiding in a basement, right? But God's about to kill everybody. So that's like the scenario. And you see the drama they're creating, right? So as they're hiding in the basement, oh, someone's at the door. Who is it, right? The end's about to come.
How is it out there? It's not good. It won't be long, maybe an hour. Is Kevin with you?
He said he's not coming. That he doesn't want to have anything to do with us anymore.
How sad. Now, this far into the Great Tribulation.
So apparently Kevin smartened up is what happened. Maybe he watched one of my videos. But as you can see that he said the Great Tribulation, right? The Great Tribulation basically like right before Armageddon, right? So they're hiding in the basement, right? Armageddon's here. They're hiding in the basement. And when this video came out, all witnesses were on the edge of their seats, right? Me too. Oh, the end's about to come, right? I'm so glad I'm Jehovah's Witness. Oh, the end's going to come, right? And the thing is, they pulled this crap in 1975, for those who aren't familiar with that. And witnesses even sold their houses. They sold their houses. They sold their businesses. They quit their jobs because, and this was in 1975, because the organization made them think, oh, the end's about to come, right? It's any minute now. And this is in 2016. They're doing the same thing. But notice the way he says the Great Tribulation. Notice the tone of his voice in the music they play. Right? Just notice the way he says it in the music they play. Just how cheesy this whole thing is. And how they're really trying to ramp Jehovah's Witnesses up to think, oh, the end's about to come. And this was in 2016.
Now, this far into the Great Tribulation. Now, this far into the Great Tribulation.
And that was in 2016, right? They're ready to be in a basement hiding because they're worried that the governments are going to kick down the door. Right? That was back in 2016, almost 10 years ago. And as you see that nothing happened. So now that we're going to go into the brother's story, which isn't really so much his story, but it goes into the guy, Kevin, who basically smartened up.
I just don't get it. Kevin knows we're in the Great Tribulation. Why would he say he doesn't want anything to do with us anymore?
Darren, I thought you had heard by now.
Heard what?
When our message changed from good news to judgment, he was telling everyone that it would make problems for us.
So when she said when their message changed from good news to judgment, so I remember when I was a Jehovah's Witness, we were being taught like any minute now, we're going to start preaching judgment. That basically you're now going to die because you didn't become a Jehovah's Witness. And I don't know if during their judgment message, people could still get baptized as Jehovah's Witnesses. I think they could. But I remember hearing that it's going to change from what they've been preaching to judgment. Right? So that's what they've been saying. But this is in 2016. And they're making them think like, oh, yeah, message of judgment. And apparently they're saying that this guy, Kevin, one of the reasons he left is because, oh, he was too afraid to preach the judgment message, right? That you're now going to die because you become a Jehovah's Witness. Now, I just want to bring this up because the message the Jehovah's Witnesses are preaching 8 years later is so far from a judgment message of, oh, you were warned and you didn't become a Jehovah's Witness. Their message has changed from good news to desperation. Their message has been, we're so desperate because no one wants to become a Jehovah's Witness now. Who wants to join this religion? Nobody wants to join this religion. And then people are leaving. There's droves of people leaving. They're so desperate that the message they're preaching now is women can wear slacks. Men can grow beards. You don't have to wear a tie. That's the message they're preaching. You could speak to this fellowship people. There's no judgment message. You see how far off they are from a judgment message from when this video came out? Oh, we're going to be preaching judgment soon. They ain't preaching. The only thing they're preaching is, please join us. Otherwise, we're going to fizzle out.
And that he was done.
I can't believe it.
Darren, think about it. We have all tried to help Kevin.
Yeah, I remember.
Think back to Sunday afternoons when we preached in the Northern Estates. We asked if he wanted to go.
What did they give us today?
Well, we're gonna go to the Northern Estates and then.
Okay.
Hey, Kevin, do you want to join us? We're going up to the Northern.
He said he had the weekend shift. Again. But that the people there have their paradise and they don't listen anyway. The car's over here.
And when we do public witnessing,
Hey, Kevin. We've been having great experiences out there at Turner Street.
Yeah, that sounds nice.
Yeah, that's by your job. Do you get to talk to your coworkers about it?
He said it wasn't a good idea to make waves at the store.
So that's basically what we've seen with the woman with the coworkers, right? The only reason she decided to talk to them is to try to preach to them, right? That was the only appropriate reason. So what they were just showing there is they asked this guy, did he talk to his coworkers about the cart they set up? And he's like, no, I don't want to do that. But that's the thing. He doesn't want to do that because he doesn't want to be fake. He wants to just go to work and do his job, and he doesn't want to be fake and pretend to talk to his coworkers about the cart, right? But that's what that was about.
For as much as we've all tried to help Kevin, he let his fear of man go unresolved.
Proverbs says, trembling at men is a snare. If Kevin couldn't preach with boldness during favorable times, imagine how much harder it was for him to loyally rely on Jehovah during this difficult time.
Yeah, now, during the Great Tribulation.
Northern Estates. So that was the name that they gave to the wealthy people, so to say, right? Northern Estates. So the programming was that apparently the Northern Estates, right? They use the name estates to sound like rich, right? That, oh, those people have their paradise. And that is what Jehovah's Witnesses say. I've heard it myself locally in the congregation I was in. They'd always say that because people that are wealthy, usually they're already living a pretty nice life. You see, witnesses preach a message of sadness, right? Will suffering ever end? Will suffering ever end? That's like their go-to topic. They're looking for people that are suffering to try to sell them the religion as a way out, right? So they like this doomsday stuff, right? It's always, will suffering ever end? Will you ever see your dead loved ones again? It's all this type of misery stuff. So what happens is that when Jehovah's Witnesses knock on the door of someone wealthy who, yeah, does have a paradise, right? They've worked hard, they have an estate. Usually those people aren't interested in the message of Jehovah's Witnesses because it is a beggar's desperation message. That's what it is. So witnesses have this saying that they always say, oh yeah, they're not interested because they have their paradise already. So that's why in that story they showed that the guy Kevin who left, oh, he doesn't want to go to the Northern Estates because they have their paradise already. But the witnesses, again, they preach a message of desperation. So one thing that I want to show is that in their new Bible that came out, I believe in 2013, but they already revised it like 3 times since then. So I don't know. I don't know what version they're on now. They have this, like they have the study version and there's so many different versions of the same book already. But they've added one of their, you could say, pamphlets into the Bible. Right? Into the actual Bible, they added one of their pamphlets. So if you look at their Bible, the one that looks like this, right in the beginning, they added their own crap right in the beginning of the Bible. So in their Bible, if you go to page 20, right in the beginning, and as you can see, it looks like a Watchtower magazine. They literally put these things in the Bible. So page number 20, what does the Bible promise for the future? So this is one of those things that they're trying to appeal to people who are depressed, right? Which is why the northern estate, so to say, doesn't really buy into this crap. But on the next page, page 21, they gave one scripture its own picture. This is how strong they want to make this point. I'm not going to read the whole scripture, but it says, they will build houses and live in them. Jehovah's Witnesses love this scripture because most Jehovah's Witnesses are poor. Most of them are poor. There are some wealthy ones, but most of them are poor, and they're kind of told like, don't get an education, don't get a real job, just rely on them. That's why. So they appeal to people who say probably are not homeowners and may never own a home. And I can say, I'm not saying like I don't own my home. I rent, I always rent. But there was one time that when I was married, me and my ex-wife actually got approved to buy a home. And we actually got to the point where we were putting offers on houses, and we had this deal which we only needed $3,000 down payment as some sort of first-time home buyers program. So all we needed was $3,000 down to buy a house. The fact that I ended up leaving our organization ended up being a blessing that we didn't do it. But the thing was, so as we were approved and we were actually putting offers on houses, one of the elders, when I told him we were doing this, he looked like he lost someone in death. He was so disappointed, like when I told him that we were buying a house, because we were the couple that they thought, oh, we're going to go to SKE school, right? Kingdom of Evangelizers, and we're going to go to Bethel and do all this free labor stuff, right? Because we didn't have any children and we were young. So the congregation was thinking we're going to do all this like free labor stuff. So I think they thought like buying a house was materialistic. So they really didn't like the idea of us buying a house. And then my ex-wife had then said, no, maybe we shouldn't buy a house because what if we go to Bethel someday, right? What if we can do all this Jehovah's Witness stuff? So my wife's attitude was, well, we'll have a house in a new system, right? Or New World Order. So witnesses, they love the scripture because they want to make people think who don't have homes, oh, don't worry. Don't worry if your credit is not good, right? You can, when God kills everybody in Armageddon and destroys everything, you can have a house for free. That's basically what they're saying. If you read between the lines of what they're saying, that's why they love this scripture, even to the point that they put this in the Bible. In the Bible, they inserted this picture next to the scripture on how they will build houses and live in them. They're appealing. It's a poor man's message. You don't have to wait to Armageddon to fix your credit and buy a house. And I say that like my credit a lot of time has not been good. And again, I still don't own a home. I rent, right? So I'm not saying anything bad about renters, but what I'm saying is that you can have a house now if you want, right? You don't have to wait for Armageddon. But this is the type of poor man's message that they put in here. So this is what the whole Northern Estates comment was at, is that, oh, those people have their paradise already. They want witnesses to think that even being a homeowner and stuff like that, oh, don't worry about that. You'll get that for free in a new system. But that message, that's why it doesn't appeal to people in a Northern Estate, so to say, or any rich area. Rich people, they're living a good life now. Witnesses don't live a good life now. They live a life of suffering and misery. And oh, life sucks now, but in the new system is going to be better. They're waiting for the new system. But that's basically the main part of the guy Kevin who left, right? He didn't want to bother people in the rich neighborhoods, and he didn't want to go to his coworkers and talk to them about the cart, the Jehovah's Witness cart. He doesn't want to do that with his coworkers, but they said it's fear of man. It's programming is what it is. They're programmed and they're brainwashed. So here's the end of this part, right? Next week, I'm going to have to do the second half because they want to end in suspense, all right? So notice like Armageddon is about to come in 2016, according to this video, right? So notice what happens next.
Yeah, now, during the Great Tribulation.
Open up.
And what is all that noise? Is it like a mosh pit? I mean, I don't know if that term is still used, but I think back in the 90s they called it a mosh pit where you just got a bunch of rock and rollers that are just, jumping around, just like, acting kind of crazy, but it's not anything scary, right? A mosh pit. That's what it sounds like. It sounds like it's a mosh pit.
What is going on out there?
They're just north of town, searching every house.
Every house?
Yeah, the neighborhood's in a panic.
Let's stay calm and lean on Jehovah. At some point, we can expect the final attack on God's people. But Jehovah's going to give us the courage we need. So let's pray together. We'll read the scriptures, and we'll keep sharing what's helped us remain loyal to God.
So that's the first half. And as you can see, 2016, right? Armageddon's any minute, right? They're going to be hiding in the basement from the mosh pit outside. But you see the fear tactics. This was the suspense in 2016. I remember when this convention came out, people that went to the convention before I did was saying, "Oh, wait till you see the convention. Oh my God." Right? It's getting crazy. The end's about to come, right? We were on the edge of our seats when this came out, thinking in 2000, probably 17, we're going to be hiding in a basement, right? And the governments are going to kick down the door. Then God's going to come and kill everybody. This was the fear that they put in us. And the thing with the last story with the guy Kevin who left, what they're saying is you better not leave this religion, right? Because look, Kevin left during the Great Tribulation. How stupid was he? Right. Well, here it is, almost 10 years later. Kevin's doing fine if he was a real person, but you know what I mean, right? These clowns are still in the basement. This is 2016. This ain't happening. Neither is the judgment message. There's no message of judgment. The message is we're so desperate, we'll do anything to keep this religion going. Women can wear slacks, right? I don't see the judgment message, and I don't see the mosh pit outside and the end coming in. This was in 2016. But you see, during this religion, I don't see how the witnesses keep falling for this. It's like every year they come out with something to make them think the end is right around the corner. Like and somehow they've been doing this since like the 1800s, and witnesses still haven't caught on. But as you can see, every one of these stories has some serious hypnotic programming. And next week, I'm going to discuss the second half of this video, and we're going to go through the storylines of the characters that we didn't discuss